What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome on in. It's 1TS Daily live right here on One True Sport. I'm your host, Zack Heydorn from Brass Ring Media. What's going on? Always a pleasure to be here on your mornings, 11 Eastern, every single day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We are here to talk the news of the day in professional wrestling and get your questions, get your comments, and just have a good time talking about this wonderful sport that we all love. Excuse my voice, as in I'm losing my voice a little bit. So we're going to take this thing as long as we can. Hopefully we can get through the full 30 minutes here, but we'll have to see how that goes. We do have a lot to discuss, and so I'm excited to be here. And thank you in advance for being here as well. If you're listening and watching on YouTube, hello. Thanks so much for being here. If you're listening and watching on Twitter, hi. If you are a One True Sport member and you are picking this up as an audio podcast, thank you for your membership. Hello, and appreciate you pressing play on this show. Here's the thing. We got a lot going on YouTube. Lots. Free. Totally free. You get to interact and hear from some of the biggest and best pro wrestling legends that the sport has seen. RVD, Art Anderson, Medusa, Kurt Angle. The list goes on and on and on. You don't want to miss anything. So hit subscribe, and that way you don't miss anything. Hit subscribe. Turn on those notifications so that you know when we drop something new. We got a great array of hosts, a great array of talent. You're not going to want to miss it. So subscribe to One True Sport on YouTube. If you're watching this live on YouTube and you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, it definitely helps us out greatly. Continue to grow this channel and grow what we're doing here with 1TS Daily and One True Sport. So thank you in advance for doing that. I do have the live chat open. So everybody who's filing in on YouTube and Twitter, feel free, have at it. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to take your questions, and we'll have some fun this morning, kind of running down a couple things and the news items of the day. Super chats are open as well. So if you're willing and able to make a contribution to me and to the show and to One True Sport, definitely do so. Any contribution amount helps in the form of a super chat, and that will bump your comment or question right to the tip top of my list here, and we'll make sure that gets read, answered, and discussed in full on today's show. Cool. All right, let's start with last night's AEW Dynamite, and let's set the table a little bit for it, because AEW had a really great show at All In. A nice night for the company, like the end of a handful of feuds, the beginning of some other feuds. They needed to have a good showing. They needed to have a good, strong episode of Dynamite. That's what we talked about last night, or yesterday afternoon on this show. And I think for the most part, they achieved that in terms of structure. I don't think that they hit on every angle, not by a long shot, but for the first time that I can remember, they lined up the right stories for your pay-per-view Fallout show. You got everything major that happened on the All-In show was addressed in some form or fashion and followed up on this week's episode of AEW Dynamite. And to me, that's really, really important, right? You got follow-up with the Bryan Danielson stuff. You got follow-up with the Swerve stuff. You got follow-up with MJF. You got follow-up with Mariah May. You had strange follow-up, albeit follow-up with Mercedes Moné. You had follow-up with Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland. And everything big that you wanted to touch on that's going to lead you into the fall, and more importantly, into All Out, they had something ready to go. And that, I think, is a good sign if you're an AEW fan, that they are lining stuff up. They're planning, I think, and making smart decisions as to what to feature and when and why. So thumbs up in terms of how they structured the show. The biggest news coming out of this is Bryan Danielson. He wrapped up the show in the main event segment talking about his future and basically says, hey, look, I'm not going to retire yet. I won the world championship. I'm gonna go until I lose this world championship. And then at that point, yes, I will not be a full-time wrestler anymore. But until then, he's going to defend the title and basically be a full-time guy. I like Danielson's promo here a lot. I thought I could do without like the tease of retirement, right? Like I can take or leave that. That is here nor there. But the crux of it though was explaining what's going to happen, right? I mean, that is what was kind of wrong with the build going into All In, was like nobody knew really what was going on. It was so messy. And Danielson last night was able to just go out there and say, look, I'm the champion. I won the championship. I'm going to defend this title, and then I'm out. That's what he needed to do. That's how you pull people onto your journey. Now, every time Bryan Danielson steps into the ring, for the most part, it is going to mean something because it could be the last time. It's not, I don't necessarily think like, at All Out, it's going to be the last time, or even Arthur Ashe. Like, I think he's got kind of a longish way to go here, but it's going to be in people's minds that, hey, this could be the last time we're seeing Bryan Danielson. And so I think that was a good way to kind of frame up not only the rest of his career, because I think he did that well, but he also framed up like the mission statement for his championship run too. Like, that was important to get that set. What is his title run going to be like? What's it going to be about? And I thought he defined that really, really well with how he spoke. Now, we did get a challenger. The news coming out of this segment is we have a challenger for Bryan Danielson at All Out, and it's Jack Perry. Now, I don't have a problem with Jack Perry as a challenger to Bryan Danielson, especially in Chicago. He's going to get a lot of heat, and it's a quick turnaround match. So I think you want good guy versus bad guy, fresh matchup. Boom. Nothing wrong with the match. How they got there, though, oh my goodness. Yesterday. Wow. Like, you have to be more buttoned up than playing some pre-taped video from Jack Perry about Bryan Danielson and also having Danielson cut this, like, what's supposed to be an off-the-cuff promo where he's revealing for the first time what his future is. How did Jack Perry know what Danielson was going to say? How did Jack Perry know that Danielson was going to issue an open challenge that he could accept and therefore cut this video for? It's messy stuff. And it doesn't need to be. It does not need to be. And it just seems like with Jack Perry in particular, this kind of thing always happens with him. It's too complex, too complicated when simple is better. What would have been better? What they did last night, or him just running up from behind, attacking Bryan Danielson and claiming a shot at the title that way? Seriously, there's no messiness to that. That's pro wrestling. Instead, you have this weird video that takes you out of the moment because it's all predetermined, and and we know that anyway. I get it, but you want to be taken out of you want to be taken like out of it. You want to be like a part of the story. And when they do stuff like that, and when they're that unbuttoned on details, it makes it really, really, really hard to do that. So they've got to be better on execution with this thing. Plus, Bryan Danielson, I know he's a fighting champion, but you can't just offer title shots to anybody. That doesn't give the title credibility. You want people to have title shots that have earned title shots or have secured them another way. So just yelling out, hey, first come, first serve. I don't know. That's not a good way to present, how you get title shots, especially when you have two people in the company that had to win matches, big time matches to get title shots. Right. So this was just poorly executed on almost every level, aside from, the Danielson promo. Let's go to some comments here in the chat section. Carl is there and goes, I get Perry as the opponent for All Out. In kayfabe, he beat Darby, who has a title shot, so he can argue he beat a number one contender. Given how hard TK has tried to push Perry, the crowd will bite on near falls. Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I have no problem with Perry as an opponent. He's going to get a lot of heat, and I like that they're just going to do. I like that they're just going to do a straight up heel versus babyface match for Danielson. That's good. The thing, and I think that Carl, what you're saying about why he deserves a title shot is great. Talk about that. That has to be something that you say. If you're going to cut a pre-tape video, say that in it. Like that this is why, not only were you the first person to like get to Danielson, but hey, it makes sense for me to have a title shot too, because I just beat a number one contender. So I think that makes sense. I think you have a good point here, but you got to say that. You got to put it out there. He also said, but agree, execution was garbage. There we go. Someone agrees with me. Andrew says, respectfully disagree. They don't have a lot of options, and Jack Perry is the leader of the Elite. This works. Well, Andrew, is he the leader of the Elite? I don't know. I kind of think he's, background player of the Elite. Young Bucks are leaders of the Elite at this point, if you ask me. Right or wrong, I think they are. But again, I'm not saying that Jack Perry shouldn't be the opponent for Bryan Danielson. I want to be like perfectly clear about that. Like, I think he's a good opponent, but you just got to get there better. You got to be smarter about how you present your main event pay-per-view angles and stories. And I think they just kind of were a little too they're not buttoned up enough yesterday on that, even though they landed, in a decent place. So that's my point. Christian can't be the first to lose again. Yeah, not ideal. So I think that it's fine. And then Darby's locked in. Yeah, that'll be an interesting match. Darby Allin versus Bryan Danielson at Arthur Ashe, especially with like whatever's going on with Jon Moxley, which we'll get to here. In a second. But that is now in the background on everything that Darby Allin does. So we'll have to see kind of how that plays in. More on Jon Moxley here. More on Jon Moxley here in a second. Jair, I got your comments. I will loop them into our future conversation. So don't think I missed them, man. Thank you. Andrew, on the idea of Jack Perry being the leader of the Elite. Andrew says he is the leader because the impetus of this version of the Elite exists because of CM Punk and Jack Perry. I mean, be a little too high level thinking for AEW, though. Yeah, I mean, yes, it is. It's just when you watch segments with them. I mean, he's not front and center. He's in the background. Okada's in the background. Young Bucks are front and center. Doesn't mean he can't be in the future, but I would not classify him as the leader of the Elite right now. But you're right about the video, though. No question about that. So they got 9 days here until All Out. They got a lot of work to do. We need some a good angle, like on Collision or on Dynamite next week, to really continue building up heat for this storyline. I hope they don't totally rest on the laurels of, well, Jack Perry is going to be in Chicago, so he's going to get heat. Yeah, he is, but you want to go with it. You want to go with it. Like, don't rest on that. Let's make that heat nuclear. Let's make that heat just as strong outside of Chicago. That's what you're going for. That's what you're looking for. And I think this could be a good way to have Jack Perry find another level as a heel. Working with Bryan Danielson should be a heel's dream, because Danielson is so good as a babyface. And, we haven't seen that extra layer from Perry, but he's a new heel. So this is a really good opportunity for him. All right. Let's talk Jon Moxley. So that was weird, right? I mean, that was an odd just appearance from Jon Moxley. Good thing is that's exactly what they're going for. I thought that Jon Moxley's presence and vibe and aura, like from the minute he stepped on camera, was just like off, but in a good way. Like, just not the normal Jon Moxley. It was slower. It was calculated. It was intense, but not as like openly aggressive. It was like some internal intensity that was kind of seeping through his facial expressions. Like, he was great in that segment. I mean, he really just sucked the life out of that building, but in a good way, because people just felt like, Mox, what's going on with Moxley? And I liked how the commentary sold it. I liked how Tony Schiavone got in the ring. I liked how they presented it as something that was just kind of happening and wasn't scheduled to happen. All of that played into Moxley and kind of this new presence character that he has. But then really the news hits when he says, hey, you guys, it's going to take you guys a long time to understand this, but this is not your company anymore. And he kind of is in Tony's ear saying that. Weird. Not really sure what to make of it at this point in time. I want to poll everybody who's in our live chat, who's watching on Twitter, and who's watching on YouTube. What do you think he meant by that? What is afoot here? Because we don't know. The only other bit of information we have is that Moxley is aligned with Marina Shafir. They both beat up some people backstage after this angle and later in the show. And that's all we know. So it's really almost impossible to and he also called out Darby Allin, as I mentioned before. He said Darby Allin and him need to have a conversation. They need to chat, right? So you have that hook set. What does it all mean? We don't know yet. And here's the deal. I liked what they did yesterday. As I just mentioned, I thought it worked. I think it's good for wrestling companies to have these kinds of storylines, these kind of week-to-week hooks that make you want to tune back in, right? That's good for your television show. And they have this. The thing is, AEW has the worst track record when it comes to this. When it comes to these kinds of storylines, they just don't hit on that. What are the two most recent ones where you started off pretty hot, and then it kind of fizzles away? The Devil storyline lost its way early. After some early intrigue, totally fizzles. Most recently, the angle with the Elite beating up Tony Khan and taking over the company. Starts off pretty interesting, fades away into oblivion by the time they pay it off. So as intrigued as I am with this, the company does not have a good track record at all of executing this and seeing these types of storylines all the way through. They just don't, and they don't deserve the benefit of the doubt at this point. That said, good for them in terms of trying to work another one in. I hope they hit on it. They got a good person at the helm in Jon Moxley to do so. He's talented. He knows what he's doing out there. He likes to be in control of what he's doing out there. So all that is good, but it just was really, really, really hard to watch this and not have a little bit of doubt in my mind to I don't know. I don't know if they can pull it off. I heard a lot on my timeline yesterday about Shane McMahon coming in. Shane McMahon was trending. I'm not sure where the Shane McMahon, Jon Moxley connection came from. I know, obviously they're both former WWE. Shane, obviously, more than just a former WWE guy, but they're both connected because of their time in WWE. But when I think Jon Moxley, I don't think Shane McMahon. When I think Shane McMahon, I do not think Jon Moxley. So it's a bit of a weird thing to jump to. So I don't know. I there's no reason based on what happened yesterday. There's no reason to think Shane McMahon is involved in any of this, but who knows? We'll find out. We'll find out soon enough. That's that, but it's intriguing and I hope they keep going with it. And Moxley was great, but they have some work to do in terms of proving out that they can, write, execute, and sell, a major storyline angle like this. And, maybe this is their third bite at the apple in not that long a time. Maybe third time's a charm. Are we sure that Mercedes Moné segment was supposed to air yesterday on the show? I mean, how random was that? Top 5 worst segments in AEW history for me on any show. The celebration, the party looked so lame. There was 2 people there. It was Camille, Mercedes, one other person in the background, and then private party. It looked empty. It looked just like they shot it in 2 minutes. Like, God, they have to be better than this kind of production. Like, someone has to see this and look at this and go, yeah, no, we're not going to move forward with that. That looked bad. Sorry, Mercedes, you're just not going to be on the show this week. That's how the cookie crumbles. This was terrible. Everybody in it is worse off. Private Party looked like goofs. Mercedes looked like just kind of like a lame, CEO champion. Like, no one's at her celebration party. Okada, just looks lame, kind of hanging around with this kind of thing and just kind of being there for comedic fodder. Like, it was bad across the board. Bad across the board. Let's get some more comments here. Carl's commenting on Jon Moxley. Says, John coming out to his New Japan Pro Wrestling theme might suggest some sort of AEW versus New Japan angle playing through the January show. Doesn't get me excited. Andrew says here, I think they need to leave Wrestle Kingdom alone. That's church. No need to piggyback. Yeah, like, I'm with both you guys on this. Like, we've seen so much crossover New Japan and AEW for a couple of years now. Like, it just doesn't have the novelty that it had before. And New Japan, frankly, just is not hot enough and not strong enough to like provide significant value to AEW anymore. AEW is way bigger than them, and so sure, one-off matches are okay here and there, and it's fine and integrated. Ishii is going to be on a show, maybe Zack Sabre Jr. I get it, like, it works in that way. But some big like angle company versus company, nah, I don't think that would be this whole angle with Jon Moxley like not working well. I think if that's where things end up, I'm with both you guys on that. Regarding Mercedes, Carl says the Mercedes party reminded me of the S-word themed parties WWE would do during the 2000s and 2010s. Cringy, and Okada is just in the Ron Simmons damn role. Yeah, that's where he is. That is not what you want. And yeah, that's a good. Yeah, it's like those Halloween parties that they used to do in the early 2000s, where you're just like, what's happening? Andrew says here, King Kong Bundy in Mid-South, Mercedes is stealing money. Oh boy, yes, your wrestling history. That joke is funny to you for sure. But yeah, I mean, she's got to deliver better than that. She's got to know better than that. Like, if you're paying her top star money and she gets presented this and then she sees it back, it's got to be like, no, guys, if you want to do this, I'm in. Let's make these changes and these changes and these changes, and then let's reshoot everything because this is bad for this reason, this reason, and this reason. She knows better than that. And she has to have more of a stake in the final product, because that's what made me, like, legitimately, it made me think like, wow, someone hit play on this and they probably shouldn't have. So yeah, awful. All right. What did you think of Ricochet last night? I don't know, a little disappointing if you ask me. I mean, it wasn't a bad match, but I think you saw firsthand why Ricochet is going to struggle in AEW. He's not special in that company. There are talents all around him that can do what he does. High flying, fast wrestling, quick pace. That's all over AEW. He's not special in that regard when it comes to that style of wrestling in that company. He just isn't. And I thought like Kyle Fletcher looked just as fast, just as quick, just as strong, just as unique as Ricochet. And I think the fact that it took Ricochet so long to beat Kyle Fletcher is a problem. I don't always think that, because I think sometimes you do need to just deliver a good match. But here, it wasn't about Ricochet having a good match. That's not why he's a good wrestler. That's a byproduct of him being a good wrestler. But he's good because what he does, what you want to sell him as, this crazy action-packed, high-flying guy. And if you don't sell that the right way, and you don't feature that, then you don't drive home the reason why people should tune in on a regular basis to see him wrestle. And I thought that AEW last night just totally missed the boat with him. Totally, 100%. Just whiffed. It wasn't a bad match, but it was a bad presentation of somebody that you want to feature, and you didn't feature him. You just said, here, we're going to drop you right into the mix. Plop. Not going to get the job done. And I don't think the crowd reacted to it. Like, they weren't coming out of their seats for that match. They weren't. Ricochet kind of like he was like blown up during that. He looked tired. So yeah, I don't know. That's something to watch. Something to pay attention to for sure. Also, lastly, big news coming out of last night was we have a steel cage match set. Swerve Strickland versus Hangman Page. I liked this promo for the most part. I thought Swerve addressed losing the title enough. I thought he did so, albeit as a means of being really angry with Adam Page, like kind of angry. He was able to present his whole situation as he wants to be going after the world title again, but he's bogged down by this Adam Page thing, and he needs to just take care of that before he can do anything else. And I thought I thought he sold that story, and I thought he sold that narrative in that body language. I thought he did a really nice job there. Adam Page, we need to see more from him. If he's going to be this like deranged psycho heel, right? Be that. You can't be like millennial cowboy psycho deranged heel. You need to turn it up. You got to turn up the volume higher. You got to get heat. If you're a heel, get heat. I don't think he did enough. Walking away during that promo, that's not the character that we know now from Adam Page. Like, Adam Page should have, this is what he's been wanting. He's been wanting to get Swerve Strickland in a ring, in a fight. And he gets it. He gets challenged by Swerve, and he just walks away. That's not deranged heel, and that's also not in line with what the character's been doing for the last 3 weeks. Somebody's got to pay attention to that. And it should be the talent if nobody else can do it. But the match itself, not bad. Carl says here, the stipulation being a cage match surprised me. Was expecting something else, maybe a throwback to Austin's and Triple H's 3 Stages of Hell match from 2001. Andrew says have to go real old school with this. They have already gone as far as drinking blood on live TV. Early bet on match of the night. Yeah, I mean, I think that the cage match stipulation makes sense based on what Adam Page said. He said that basically, Swerve, you can't win without help. You beat me with help all this time, every time you've won. And then Swerve said, fine, you want to take everybody else out of it? You and me in a cage. Nobody can get in. We can't get out. So I think that makes sense. And Andrew, yes, I mean, they do have to go old school. They have to put some heat on Adam Page. I think that's like the real old school thing to do. So to me, it's probably some big beatdown segment next week on Dynamite. Just some vicious, heel assault, I think is exactly what the doctor ordered on that. That's Dynamite, guys. That's Dynamite. Again, a very newsworthy show and a good show, top to bottom, and the right show for AEW to have. Again, they didn't hit on everything, but they checked the boxes. Tonight it's TNA. We got TNA Impact. This is what we're advertising for the show, or well, not we. They are advertising for the show. Mike Bailey versus Rich Swann for the X Division Championship. Jordan Grace is going to wrestle Ash by Elegance for the Knockouts title. Nick Nemeth and Josh Alexander will have a face-to-face before their Emergence Iron Man match, 60-minute Iron Man match tomorrow, TNA Emergence. We'll see Hammerstone against Eric Young, Eddie Edwards versus Mike Santana, Joe Hendry versus Brian Myers, and then Ace Austin and Chris Bay versus Cody Deaner and Jake Something. That's going to be a non-title match. So a lot happening on Impact tonight. Should be a big night for TNA. We are gonna tomorrow on this show it's like preview city. We are gonna preview Bash in Berlin. We're gonna preview NXT No Mercy, and we will also take a look at the TNA Emergence card as well. So don't miss tomorrow's show, you guys. Man, it's gonna be huge. 11 Eastern, right here, 1TS Daily. Hit subscribe so that you don't miss it. Cool. Cool. We'll wrap up there. I'm Zack Heydorn. You can check out more of my work at Brass Ring Media, or I guess I should say Brass Ring Media. We have a YouTube channel, totally free to subscribe. We have live shows every day on that channel with myself and my team and others, just working to give you the best long form. That's kind of our hook, long form analysis of pro wrestling. Check it out. I think you'll love those shows. You can download them as podcasts as well, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Just search Brass Ring Media. We also have a Substack where we have all of our written content on a day-to-day basis. So go there. We'd love for you to subscribe. We'd love to see you as a free subscriber. We do have membership too, and you can check that out as well on Patreon, patreon.com/Brass Ring Media. As for One True Sport, you can head over to onetruesport.com now. Check out those membership tiers. Check out the merch store. We have 1TS Daily merch. We have merch from all the superstars that join us on a regular basis on our shows, and a slew of other stuff over there. So check it out, onetruesport.com. Like the video if you haven't done so already. If you're in YouTube or you're on Twitter and you can like this video, please do. It helps us out greatly, and I thank you in advance for that. Matthew joined us at the very end. Matthew, hello. What's up? Hopefully you can check out the show, part of the show that you missed. Hope that you do. But thanks for checking in. So guys, tomorrow, 11 Eastern, we got a lot to preview. We got a lot to do on tomorrow's show. So we will do that. I will see you all then. Have a wonderful, wonderful Thursday. Talk to you soon. See ya.